All right, 5.6 ready. Seems relatively simple. We're finding the area of a triangle. If we remember, area is 1/2 base times height. And I'm looking at this triangle, and I see I have the base. Here's the base, 14 centimeters. The problem is the height is always perpendicular to the base. The height must be perpendicular to the base. I don't have the height. What I am given is a hypotenuse. I'm not given the height of the triangle, so we have to find it. In order to find it, we are going to have to use SOHCAHTOA. So let me write this. Or I write it all the time, you guys, and you really need to do the same thing. So SOHCAHTOA, and you might want to do work on another piece of paper. Here's the triangle that I'm going to work with. I'm going to work with this little triangle. This is across from the right angle, therefore it is the hypotenuse. If this is my angle that I'm using, I'm going to call this one theta because it's 45 degrees. That's what I'm given. Theta is going to be the angle we are using. So theta, there's my hypotenuse. That means my height is the opposite. So if I look at SOHCAHTOA, I need the opposite. I have the hypotenuse. What uses opposite and hypotenuse? Sine uses opposite and hypotenuse. So it's sine of theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. So sine of theta is 45 degrees. Opposite stays opposite. That's what I'm looking for. And my hypotenuse is 5√2. So now I'm going to go through and I am going to make sure my calculator is in degree mode. And I am going to multiply by 5√2. Please be careful when you're plugging this into the calculator. And again, your calculator needs to be in degree mode. So I'm multiplying by 5√2 in order to get rid of the fraction. So that cancels. In my calculator, I'm going to do 5. And clear that. Okay, so I'm going to go 5 square root of 2, and I'm going to hit equals. And then I'm going to hit times the sine of 45, which gives me 5. So the opposite is 5. So now I can use my area formula. So 1/2 base, which is 14, height, which is 5. And you guys can go through and finish that one. So I'm just going to help you get the rest of these set up. I'm not going to go through and work out anymore. If you need more assistance, you know where to find me, or you can rewatch the video. In number 2, here's my base. My base is 38. I have to find the height. Actually, let me use the same colors. So I'm going to do the base in yellow. There's my base, and my height is the perpendicular. That's what I'm looking for. You see where the 18 is? The 18 is on this little triangle. This is the triangle that you will be using. You're going to use that triangle. So you have to identify, what am I given? What does the 18 represent? Is it the hypotenuse, the opposite, or the adjacent? And then what does the height represent? Is it the hypotenuse, the opposite, or adjacent? And then from there, decide, are you using SO, CA, or TOA? You're only going to use one of them. Number 3, my height is the perpendicular. My base is the flat part here. And then identify the triangle, and then identify it as opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent, and then decide if you're going to use sine, cosine, or tangent. Same thing in 4. Here's the base. Here is my height. So now we just need to go through. This is an isosceles triangle, so don't overthink this. Even though the base is 16, each of these sides is 8 and 8. and then you guys can go through and find your height. 5 is tricky. You really don't need to do 5. If you want to try it, go ahead. This would be your base. This would be your height. So be careful, because now you have to find a bunch of different things. You're not given any of them. So you're going to have to use SOHCAHTOA quite a bit. So kind of think of that one as a challenge problem. If you get 1 through 4, you might want to try 5. If you're struggling, come in and get help before you move on to 5. Make sure you're checking your answers. We are not doing the set, so I'm going to ignore those. And then we're going to go on to the go. And the go is actually kind of long. This is something that's going to take you a little bit of time here. Please be careful. All right, here we go. Fill in the missing sides and angles. There are 3 sides, there are 3 angles. So you need to make sure that you go through and find all 3 pieces. It says, write your answers in simplified radical form. Do not use a calculator. What is meant by that? It doesn't mean don't ever use a calculator. It means do not use a decimal. That's what this means. You are absolutely not allowed to use a decimal. I really hope we are clear on that. No decimals allowed. So when I am looking at 8, I know if this is 45, this is 45. Angles are always the easiest thing to use. Since the angles are equal, that means your 2 sides are equal. So I'm going to call them x and x. Now you can use the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. And you're going to use the same process in number 9. So I'm just going to get you started on number 8. Which of these is my hypotenuse? The one across from the right angle. This is your C. That's the hypotenuse. So A, B. So x squared plus x squared equals 16 squared. Now you guys can go through and finish. You have 2x squareds and it equals 100 and I want to say, let me just double check. 16 squared. Okay, I was way off. 256. And then you guys can finish. Same thing in number 9. I'm not worried about you guys doing 10. Number 11, you guys are actually going to have to go through and use SOHCAHTOA. So 10. I was lost. Okay. On number 11 and 12, SOHCAHTOA would be the easiest thing to use here. First, if this is 60, what's left for this little piece? 30. So now I have my angles done. I have one side. I need to find the other 2 sides. In order to find those, I have to determine this is my hypotenuse. Pick theta. I don't care which one you use, the 60 or the 30. What's nice is it doesn't matter because you're going to get the same answer no matter what, as long as you don't make any mistakes. So I'm going to say 60 is my theta. Since 60 is theta, here's the adjacent, here's the opposite. I don't care which one you guys go through and find first. It makes absolutely no difference to me which one you find first. I am going to find my adjacent first. So I'm going to write out let me separate that better. SOHCAHTOA. I'm given the opposite. I'm going to find adjacent. What uses opposite and adjacent? Tangent uses opposite and adjacent. So I'm going to use the tangent of theta, opposite over adjacent. So tangent of 60 equals opposite is 15, adjacent, I don't know what that is. So now I'm going to go ahead and use my calculator to finish this. First I want to get rid of my fraction. So A is going to, hold on. Okay. A and tangent of 60, for those of you who haven't caught on to this little shortcut yet, A and the tangent of 60, when you multiply by A, you end up dividing by tangent of 60, which means I can bypass this step for those of you who are good with the mental math. These just switch. So A is going to equal 15 divided by the tangent of 60. Now I know it says to leave these in radical form. I'm okay with these being decimals for right now. So 15 divided by tangent of 60 ends up being 8.66. So 8.66. Now you can use the Pythagorean theorem, but it's honestly easier to go ahead and say, oh, I have hypotenuse, I have an opposite. What uses that? Sine. So I'm going to use sine of 60 equals 15 over h. Switch these. H equals the sine. H equals 15 divided by the sine of 60. So 15 divided by the sine of 60 is 17.32. These are not very short problems, you guys. You're going to have to put the work in. So 11 is done. If you need to pause it and watch it again, do that. And then you need to try 12. Please give this a valid effort. Don't just kind of give up on this one. We need to make sure we're getting this down. I'm not worried about 13, 14, or 15. When you get to filling these in, this should actually look familiar and be like, wait a second, I think we've done this already. You have these triangles back here that you guys can use also, okay, for finding the sine and cosine and tangent. These are your 45-degree triangles. These are your 30 and 60-degree triangles. So make sure you guys are using those to fill these in, okay? Simplified radical form. Actually, you know what? To make your life easier, I strongly suggest Google a 45-90. There is a pattern for these. I suck at drawing these triangles. There is a pattern here. If these are congruent, I can follow a pattern. I don't think the internet is working. I'm at school right now, so it's kind of being dumb. But there is a pattern that you guys can follow. And then there's a 30, 60, 90-degree triangle. And if you guys can find those on the internet, it'll actually be better for filling in 16, 17, and 18. So I would like you guys to see if you can find the 45, 45, 90 triangle and the 30, 60, 90 triangle on the internet and see if you can use those to fill in 16, 17, and 18. That way you're actually leaving them in square root form. These are not that bad. This is going to lead us into actually learning learning the unit circle. So we're going to keep seeing these. You're going to keep seeing them over and over and over. You're going to fill in a bunch of these boxes. And it's one of those things, if you're getting it right now, that is fantastic. If you are not, when I go over the unit circle with you, it should make everything a lot easier to know these, but you'll get it eventually. Okay, there will be a time when I'm actually going over this stuff in class and not just in a video. But maybe Google those, and that might help you with these. And you can even Google these. This stuff is all on the internet. You can Google the sine of 45. You can Google the cosine of 45, the tangent of 45. It might make it easier for you guys to go ahead and use that. All right, that wraps up 5.6. If you have questions, I will see you tomorrow and you can ask them then.